Shalom. I'd like to start out by giving all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rakah Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect of Israel. This is Thamayim in Atlanta, and I've got this article from Reuters. It's from today, June 29th. Came out 6 hours ago. And it's speaking on how the Supreme Court just granted more state powers to the reservations, to GAD's reservations, which GAD being the Native American Indians. But let's go ahead and get into it. It says U.S. Supreme Court expands state power over Native American tribes. And so this is just another example of Esau and Babylon. Esau being the self-proclaimed white man, the so-called Caucasians, and Babylon being the United States of America. They entered into 400 plus treaties with GAD, the Native Americans, and they broke them all on the U.S. side. They broke every single one of them. And GAD continues to enter into these treaties, and the U.S. continues to break them. And here is another example, a very recent example of it. It says the U.S. Supreme Court on Wednesday dramatically increased the power of states over Native American tribes and undercut its own 2020 ruling that expanded tribal authority in Oklahoma, handing a victory to Republican officials in that state. In a 5-4 decision authored by conservative Justice Brett Kavanaugh, the court ruled in favor of Oklahoma in its bid to prosecute Victor Castro Huerta, a non-Native American convicted of child neglect in a crime committed against a Native American child, his 5-year-old stepdaughter, on the Cherokee Nation reservation. Until now, states generally lacked jurisdiction over such crimes, which was prosecuted by the federal government. The change of course only 2 years after the July 2020 ruling in a case called McGirt v. Oklahoma was made possible by conservative Justice Amy Coney Barrett's October 2020 appointment by Republican former President Donald Trump to replace the late liberal Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who had been in the majority in that decision. Conservative Justice Neil Gorsuch, as he did in 2020, joined the court's liberal bloc on Wednesday in favor of Native American interests, but expanded conservative majority meant that this time he was in the minority. To be clear, the court today holds that Indian country within its state's territory is part of a state and not separate from a state. Kavanaugh wrote in a decision that scholars of Native American law said was a major departure from long-standing precedent, because previously those reservations actually had sovereignty and had their own laws within the boundaries of a state. But it looks like they are getting rid of that, and you can only imagine what the reason for getting rid of that is, and so that they can eventually come in and push their MOTB onto the tribe of Gad and to Reuben and to the whole world. So Kavanaugh added that under the Constitution and this court's precedents, the default is that states may exercise criminal jurisdiction within their territory. In the McGirt decision, the court recognized about half of Oklahoma, much of the eastern part of the state, as Native American reservation land beyond the jurisdiction of state authorities. That ruling, criticized by Governor Kevin Stitt and other Republicans, meant that many crimes on the land in question involving Native Americans would need to be prosecuted in tribal or federal courts. So they make it seem like it's for good, like they're doing a good thing so that these criminals can be prosecuted, but as always, they have more devious and sinister plans. Castro Huerta's lawyer, Zachary Schaff said the ruling was devastating for his client and others affected, but glad the court had not overruled the McGirt decision. We look forward to continuing the fight for tribal sovereignty in Oklahoma and nationwide, Schaff added. Wednesday's ruling affects Oklahoma and could be extended to other states. About 20 states where tribal reservations are located could seek new authority to exert criminal jurisdiction over crimes committed by non-Native Americans against Native Americans on Native American land. That includes western states with large Native American populations, including Arizona and New Mexico. Arizona State University Law School professor Stacy Leeds, an expert on Native American legal issues, said the ruling upended the entire field of federal Indian law that was based on the assumption that Congress decided the extent of state power over tribes. It seems to invite the state in, not by action of the federal government or consent of the tribe. Somehow, the states have now magically acquired inherent state jurisdiction, Leeds added. Grim result. Writing in dissent, Gorsuch called Wednesday's ruling a grim result for different tribes in different states, but said its impact could still be limited by individual treaties and laws passed by Congress. And as I said earlier, God has entered into hundreds of treaties with the United States of America, and they have broken them all one-sided. And when you keep doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting a different outcome, but you always get the same result, that is called insanity. And our people are in a deep sleep and need to wake out of it. Gad, it's high time you woke up out of sleep. One can only hope the political branches and future courts will do their duty to honor this nation's promises, even as we have failed today to do our own, Gorsuch added. And they always make themselves seem really sad and upset about this stuff, but they can't help but to do wickedness because they are the devil, that being Esau, Edom. 35 states are home to federally recognized tribes, according to the National Congress of American Indians. Before the Supreme Court ruling, 16 had already been given authority by Congress to assert jurisdiction over at least some tribal land for crimes involving Native Americans. Oklahoma Attorney General John O'Connor, a Republican, said that as a result of the McGirt ruling, many crimes were not being prosecuted by federal authorities. Now the state prosecutors can take up the slack and get back to what we have been doing for 113 years, which is lying and stealing. That's not what O'Connor said, but that's what we know has been going on for the last 500 years. The state already prosecutes crimes committed in the affected land in which no Native Americans are involved. Tribal courts handle crimes committed by and against Native Americans. Chuck Hoskin, principal chief of Cherokee Nation, said that the justices had ignored court precedent and basic principles of law. And normally when you see these, the chiefs of the nations now at this point in our modern times, they're actually, most of their legacies and lineages actually just go back to Esau, Edom, which could possibly explain the last name Hoskin. Usually they're really just the seed of a white man in brown skin. And sometimes not even brown skin. Going back, said that the justices had ignored court precedent and basic principles of law. Tribes have welcomed the McGirt ruling as a recognition of their sovereignty. The Supreme Court in January rejected Oklahoma's request to outright overturn it. Castro Huerta was convicted in state court of neglecting his stepdaughter, who has cerebral palsy and is legally blind, and sentenced to 35 years in prison. Threw away the key. The Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals last year threw out that conviction because of the 2020 precedent. Castro Huerta, by then, was already indicted for the same underlying offense by federal authorities, transferred to federal custody, and pleaded guilty to child neglect. He has not yet been sentenced. And so, yeah, it's just another example of Esau Edom breaking treaties and taking what they want. And I believe this is to set up for the future and the pushing of the MOTB, and so that these tribal laws can affect them going into these reservations and actually implanting the CHIP into Gad and Reuben and the people that live on these reservations. So it's enough for that article. We'll go to the scriptures. And we're going to start here at Sirach 12 and 10. It says, never trust thine enemy. And Gad entering into these treaties with the Edomites, with Babylon, they're doing it over and over and over for there to be 400 plus treaties. They've broken them. Like once they break one, you should realize, oh, these people are untrustworthy. But we're a loving and kind people, and we actually play fair. And so Gad has been doing this over and over. But the Lord tells you right here, never trust thine enemy. And the Edomites are your ultimate enemy. You should be able to tell from history and all the treaties they've broken, all the tears that have been shed, trail of tears, the fact that you're on a reservation right now and used to actually rule this whole land, all of North America, all of South America. Well, that's including the other tribes, but the Northern Kingdom ruled this whole side of the world. But now, Esau Edom is in rule, and that is because you trusted your enemy. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. And his wickedness is just going to be there. Just like iron rusts. You leave iron out, it's going to rust. You see Esau Edom, he is going to be wicked. So he humbled himself, and them being in these courts and wearing these suits and ties and pretending like they are some authority over morality and civility, that's humbling themselves. And go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass. So he's still the same devil, the same thief, same rapist, the same forked-tongued devil that he's always been. Thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away. Set him not by thee, lest when he hath overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. And even they set these Edomites beside him, and now even their chiefs, their high-ups within these tribes, these are actually Edomites. They're tares, pretending to be natives, but they really go back to Edomites. Neither let him set at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And thou at the last remember my words, and be pricked therewith. Who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent? And Esau Edom is that serpent, or any such as come nigh wild beasts. So one that goeth to a sinner, and is defiled with him in his sins, who will pity? For a while he will abide with thee, but if thou begin to fall, he will not tarry. An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit. And this new jurisdiction, it makes it sound as if it's good so that criminals can be prosecuted even on reservation land. But they're digging a pit for you. They're digging a pit for you, Gad and Reuben. Wake up. He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood. And they are bloody, bloody people. If adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first. And though he pretend to help thee, yet shall he undermine thee. He will shake his head, and clap his hands, and whisper much, and change his countenance. Never trust thine enemy. And I get it. His words are smooth. And they seem like nice people, but they are not. Psalms 55, and we're going to start at 20. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. And when Christopher Columbus, aka Christopher Columbus, came over to this side, they entreated them and were trying to be nice to them and befriend them, but he slayed every last one of them and then sent back for his buddies to come and genocide the tribes. And that's what they've been doing ever since. It's holding you down, having their foot on your neck. And then even the pilgrim story that you get in school, the Gad tried to help feed the pilgrims and show them how to survive, because they were not surviving when they first got over here. But then what they do? They went and spread disease purposely. They always try to say it was accident, but it was purposely so that they could take Gad's land. So reading that again, it says, he hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant, and he's broken, as I said earlier, 400 plus treaties. Treaty is a covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, and they do. Their words are nice. It makes them seem like they're actually genuinely good people. But war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. And yeah, that speaks so well to what happened to the Northern Kingdom on this side of the world. All their words made them seem like good people, morally conscious people, but they're just bloody. They're bloody, they break treaties, and they need to be put down. And they will be. Yahushua is coming back. We can see all the turmoil within the earth. We can see this spirit, this perverse spirit that's been mingled here. And it just can't go on for much longer. The Lord is going to destroy this place. Gad, you need to wake up. You need to wake up soon. Oops. This is not it. It's in Genesis 49. Alright, yeah, Genesis 49 and 19. It says Gad, and again, Gad being the Native American Indians. A troop shall overcome him. That troop being the U.S. cavalry, the United States in general. But he shall overcome at the last. And we're right there at the last. So you need to be preparing, Gad. You need to be waking up and putting on the whole armor of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, getting all this truth, so that you can share in the glory with Yahweh Shai and taking down your enemies. So, Lord willing, that was edifying. I'd like to give all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakak, Dash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect of Israel. Shalom.